Hello there. Well, I figured I would do a part two to that video because I did have some stuff thought out for where that story would go and what the rest of that story was going to be. And it was kind of scary. And I'm at least going to make a video on that and what I've thought about it to finish it out for anyone that really liked that story. So I was thinking that basically there would be an overarching uh, villain to this story that was akin to Jack the Ripper, like cutting up the girls that our main character loved, killing hookers, something that didn't matter to anybody else but him and was getting ignored and whatever. And then, like, there would be twists and turns in that story, and like maybe let's say the mayor's daughter got killed by this thing, and that makes it more serious. And we have Vietnam flashbacks. There's going to be a whole chapter entitled Operation Mystic Panther because I thought that sounded hilarious and like a blaxploitation film. And like there's a lot of like blaxploitation shit in this that I picked up a love for from watching Samuel L. Jackson movies and Quentin Tarantino movies. Like it's hard, not to like, shit like Shaft, which is definitely a huge influence on that whole story. I eventually wanted the whole thing to end in a confrontation between the murderer and the detective on top of a tower in downtown Tulsa. And I wasn't sure how that was going to go down or how it was going to end. But I liked the idea of setting it on top of one of the skyscrapers in downtown Tulsa because it's a cool location. And like when writing this, I was thinking as writing a book, but like potentially it could be a movie or something like that too. And if you set it in a location that's cheap to shoot and real, that's advantageous. And like I was already setting it in Tulsa, so I was thinking of cool places in Tulsa to talk about that either could potentially be used in a movie, or if you're just reading the book, you could go up and look up these places. And I think real details like that make it cool. I was planning an arc to this with the medical examiner and the shrink and that whole thing. That was going to be a coming and going thing through the chapters. We were about to meet his partner, Harvey. Harvey is like, if you ever watched Gotham, the TV show Gotham, imagine Harvey Bullock in that show, but put into this book. That's what I was thinking of as a partner for him. That's what I wanted, was Harvey Bullock from Gotham. Actor, the character, the whole thing, just that would be his partner. And it would be kind of a, a love, mild neglect kind of relationship. That's kind of what I was envisioning. Captain Walker, I mentioned at the end of the last one, I wanted to be Christopher Walken, and I would write him as Walken, so he'd be all like, "Your car, it's alive. Chase me." He wouldn't use punctuation or have any pattern or rhythm to his voice. Really? Let's see what else. I definitely was gonna have some fucking LSD trips or something, or some dreams and shit like that. Like entire chapters of this book were going to be, you know, him taking acid with a hooker. Maybe I should write that chapter. Bow chicka bow bow. I don't know. Do you want more of this? That's the real question of this. Is like, I have some effort already put into that. I could write more chapters to that. I kind of stopped because I thought it was, a bunch of stuff just kind of mashed together, but like it's kind of cool. It has its own vibe. I like the level of detail I go into on the guns and what he's carrying and shit like that because that's what I'm into. I want to know these things. And I gave him cool guns. I gave him guns that I would carry. I made him a gun guy. Like he's carrying an ASP in 1979. That's like tip of the spear, you know. And like obviously I wrote this in college, so it's got some issues and shit. And I would tweak some things and make some corrections, and maybe I should do that. Uh, I've grown a lot as a person and a writer, and I would reword some things and restructure some things. If you do like stories and like to write, like I would encourage you just to start writing. Like I would go and take a class at a community college oh, on creative writing. It should be like a lit one English one kind of thing, intro to creative writing. I think that would do you a lot of good. But at the same time, ignore all of the rules because you can do whatever you want. That's the great thing about writing. A lot of people would say you had to do X, Y, or Z, and like, in my opinion, you don't even have to spell words right if you don't want to. Depends on what you're trying to convey. If I'm talking like I'm fucking, if I'm talking like I'm fucking drunk, I might misspell some words to cause that effect. And like I guess that's the thing that like I always got about writing that a lot of people didn't is that like you can do anything you want. There are no rules. Just because they tell you there are rules, there's like things you should do so people understand you. The use of quotation marks and commas and periods and capital letters helps people understand what they're reading. It really does. Um, for me, if I'm, typing stuff online, I worry about that sometimes. Sometimes I don't. Depends on the nature of the conversation and how long the messages are. If they're, pretty long message, I start worrying about punctuation a lot more than I do if it's a sentence or two. How many times do you type someone a phone book online? It's not very often. Most text messages, you really don't need to worry about grammar or anything, really. Most people don't worry about spelling, Not to mention the fucking iPhone I type on makes it damn near impossible to fucking actually communicate what you mean to somebody. I don't know who the fuck thinks the autocorrect thing needed to be a thing, but it frustrates the shit out of me. I have it turned off even, and it still occasionally like just randomly changes shit. Like I'll admit sometimes I pressed the wrong button. Granted, okay, that doesn't happen all the time. Some of the times I'm 2 or 3 words down the row and you know bound changes to round because reasons. And like bound and round are close, but they are not the same word. And if I said one, I probably meant one. And if I didn't, I'll change it. And like that's the shit that annoys me about the iPhone. But at the same time, I love writing on the iPhone because it makes it very easy for me just to write whatever I'm wanting to write. The thing that I read you earlier, I wrote on a MacBook keyboard, laptop computer. Um, and that's an okay way to write. I much prefer writing on an iPhone, and that's just after years and years and years of using them. I bought my first iPhone. I bought in 2008. I think maybe it was 2007. One of those. I was a junior in high school, and I was working at my high school watching kids after school. And I just saved and saved and saved and saved because everybody else at my school had a laptop. And I, traditionally you think, oh, well, you're gonna go buy a laptop. Well, I looked at the market of shit, and then I saw the iPhone come out and was like, well, that does everything I would ever want a laptop to do, and a phone to do, and an iPod to do, and it fits in my pocket. I'm buying that. I spent $800 on that, and honestly, it was the best purchase I ever made. I what I don't know. The internet before I had an iPhone was something that I went and used in a place like a library. And when I got that iPhone, it became a part of you. It became something you used all the time. And I think this is maybe part of the problem of the world right now is there's a whole bunch of people that can't do shit without that iPhone now. And to an extent, I would be handicapped because there's a couple of features of the iPhone that I don't have the old device that it replaced. And that would be the calculator, the calendar. Let's see what else. There's a whole bunch of other shit on here. It's not really what this video is supposed to be about, but it's deeply connected to the writing thing. And I find this subject interesting, so I'm going to keep talking about it. But like these are the things I want to get ones of now. The camera. I don't have a camera other than my phone. I used to always have a digital camera. I ended up, selling my. I had a Sony CyberShot that I started this YouTube channel on. I sold it at a pawn shop years ago because like it really was just kind of meaningless to me. It was a graduation gift from my mother, and I guess it should have meant something to me. But a camera really isn't something that means something to me. It's something that like is a tool, and I appreciated it at the time, and I really liked it. And I probably should have hung on to it, but it was a tool that was very, very rapidly made obsolete. Like I had that Sony CyberShot, and for a while, the phone cameras weren't as good as that CyberShot. And within a year, 2 or 3, the phone in my pocket had a camera as good as it. And then within 3 or 4 years, it had a better camera. And once it had a better camera, I never used that camera again. It's just like the iPhone changed the world. And I think there's a lot of things in my lifetime that have changed the world. And we aren't done yet. I'm hoping basically to use storytelling and, talking to you guys here and maybe selling some weed to fund building a cabin and getting Starlink to not stop the message, basically. I figure as long as I can stay in the good graces of Patreon and Elon Musk and at least one bank, we'll be good. I'm not sure that's possible, but we'll try. I spoke to my bank about shit, and I got the feeling that staying at that bank might be a leery proposition. I don't know what it is about like wanting to wage war on the federal government via a radio show that they would take issue with. Personally, I can't wait to buy my land and put up hedgerows. My buddy said he wanted to do hedgerow perimeter fencing. I'm like, that's why you're my friend. It's genius. Try getting through that shit. Oh, the rest of that story, I was really figuring on it being a long book and having twists and turns, and it was going to be a detective chase across Tulsa for, like I said, a Jack the Ripper type character. I think we would have met our man's lovers, at least a few of them. and we would have gotten to know those girls. And like, this is the thing, is I would have made all of the characters in this thing really well described and fleshed out and given moments and interactions. And like you saw him with Blake, these are the kind of things that I like to write. Like, I just wish I could find a job as a writer, but apparently I don't even know how the fuck you do that. Don't really care to either. Like, honestly, I think anywhere where you're working for somebody else in today's day and age, you are doomed to failure. As long as the Democrats and Biden are in charge, don't even try. It's my advice. There's no point in even fucking making money if they're in charge. Like, if they're in charge much longer, there's not going to be any point in making money at all. Like, it's going to be worthless. With the inflation and shit going the way it is, I think we are headed very rapidly into hyperinflation. I think, you know, I don't know if this is the end of the world. It's the end of something. And maybe I should continue writing this story now. It'll give me a distraction. It's something I've already got, pretty well thought out, at least a general idea of where I want it to go. It is the last writing project that I really worked on that was creative. Tell me what you guys think. Would you like to see our man Samuel L. Jackson, Shaft, whatever you want to call him? I don't think I ever gave him a name. My intention was to call him our man or the man throughout the entire fucking thing. And just like never give him a name. Thought that would be funny. But very clearly he's based on Samuel L. Jackson. Sorry, I'm hearing like noises outside and I'm trying to stop talking to hear them. I'm going to end this here so I can go be paranoid about the noises outside. Again, tell me if you want more story.